funny? What's funny about the bear? Please stop this. It's about cooking, which is stressful, in a restaurant, which is stressful, and about people with issues in a restaurant who are cooking, which is stressful. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Moment. Nice of you to join me, and together, you and me, mostly me, let's be real, but I'm sure you're having discussions about these things while you're listening, so I feel like I'm having this conversation with you. It's where we dissect the moment or moments that everyone's talking about today or yesterday around this specific time. So pretty straightforward. Hope you're good. Hope if you're in any of those heatwave areas that you're coping okay. I'm in Victoria, in Melbourne, and I put something up yesterday on social media about Frosty Fruit's icy poles and how many you can have legally in a day without, being taken to the sweet treats prison. And it went absolutely off, but I did get a lot of messages from people in WA, and if you're listening in WA, hello to you. And you were saying, you Easterners, you just can't do heat. It's like that all the time in WA, and I agree, we're soft. But I'm leaning into it. It's icy poles aplenty. It's air conditioning on as much as I can. And yeah, I had to look after wildlife and nature here on my 1 acre yesterday to stress possums and birds and put the water out, if you remember. That's very important, especially if you're in like a semi-rural area. Not that probably many of you are, I don't know. But they don't have water sources in the same way that they might in nature. So yeah, it was very clear to me yesterday that they need water. So yeah, do the right thing. And I'm thinking about those people too who are experiencing bushfires at the moment. It must be absolutely terrifying on so many levels. Let's get into it, shall we? I've got lots of newsy moments for you. First, I want to report on the death of a legend, somebody who made us look at art with whole new eyes. No, I'm not talking about people like Andy Warhol, who brought pop art into the world, utilising imagery from advertising and changing what we thought art could be. No, I'm not talking about Jeff Koons, who utilised kitsch and presented it back to us as art made by artisans, not even by his own hand, who changed the concept of what art can be. Lots of artists like that. No, I'm talking about the original baddie who changed the fortunes of a small town in northern Spain because of her, I think we can call it magnificent work now. In hindsight, it was magnificent. It was timely and magnificent because the town where she created this masterpiece is now enjoying a tourist boom. They went from 5,000 visitors annually, so per year, to 40,000 visitors just 2 years after her work was presented to the world, or discovered, I should say. Do you know who I'm talking about? Yes, I'm talking about an elderly Spanish woman called Cecilia Giménez. She has died at age 94. And she gave us one of the most viewed artworks of recent times. Not the Mona Lisa. I mean, obviously, everyone's seen that. But this was different. This was a feat. 13 years ago, she became very, very famous after she attempted to restore a century-old painting that was in her local church, of which she was a parishioner, titled, and excuse my Latin pronunciation, I don't know how to do Latin, Ecce Homo. Ecce Homo? I just sound like I'm putting on a bad accent then. Anyway, the English translation of that is Behold the Man. That's what it means in Latin. And it was a fresco by 19th century painter Elias Garcia Martinez that was held in her local church in the town of Borja. Very unknown little village, really. No one took the time to drop by. This was a very old fresco, over a century old, and in the scheme of things, a beautiful artwork, but quite irrelevant in terms of the other types of frescoes that you could see, the more famous ones that are available. So not a lot of thought went into the fixing up of a fresco. Bit of paint had fallen off Jesus's face, I think, is what happened. And that happens, you know. In the olden days, they used lots of different materials that you wouldn't use now to mix the paint in order to get it to stay on the canvas and to enhance the colour and all sorts of things, you know. I mean, people smoked around them. They probably smoked in church. And I know a lot of Rothko paintings, the famous, beautiful, colour-rich, colour-drenched paintings actually change colour because quite often he would use egg whites in the mix to set the paint onto the canvas. But then that would discolour over the years because these paintings would be in boardrooms where everybody smoked. Not only did the egg whites change the colour, but the smoking, obviously. So times have changed. But yes, this fresco needed a delicate touch of somebody who had an artistic background. And beautiful Celia certainly did. She's been painting her entire life. So no questions asked when she offered to give it a little touch-up, do some restoration on this ancient fresco. Look, we know what happened next. Someone cottoned on to what had happened. Someone took a photo, and this image of Jesus, the restored face of Jesus, ended up all over the world. It became one of the biggest memes, I think, in history. Everyone knew about Cecilia's work. Good on you, Cecilia. Now, I imagine as an artist herself, this would be truly awful. And she did come out a couple of years ago and say when this happened, she was in the process of restoring the image. She was actually on holidays, so she was halfway through. But what came out in the end was what was known as, well, it got this nickname, Monkey Christ, because Christ went from a bit of a trad-looking Jesus to looking like a hairy monkey. And look, I don't think it was a bad look at all. It was a great look. And if that was her interpretation, whether or not she was interrupted in the middle or discovered before it was completed, I don't care. It's become an artwork in its own right. And you know what? She weathered the storm. It must have been horrible. The world was laughing at her, but she weathered it. And as I said, then the tourists came. Then the finances of the town were looking up. Then they had merch. There was mugs. There was posters. There was all sorts of things going on there. And the town was very, very grateful for what had happened because basically an unknown fresco would probably have remained so. So RIP to Cecilia Giménez, who lived a life fully devoted to the church. And in fact, she changed the fortunes of the church, the town, and maybe encouraged a few more people who may not have looked at a fresco of any type to go in and have a look at their local church, to go in and have a wander when they're in a town that they don't know and see what's on offer on the walls, because quite often in those days, I mean, the church was the place that would commission artworks. That is where they spent the money because they wanted people to come into the churches and to look to the sky in awe as if they were looking towards God. So that's actually where the artists hung out. So yeah, good on ya. Good on you, Cecilia. We love you and we love what you did. And that reminded me to go and have a look at a couple of other artworks where they haven't been liked initially, but their impact has been far greater because of it. And what comes to mind immediately was the Cristiano Ronaldo statue that's at an airport in Spain that did not look like him at all, but I liked it. And that is art. It doesn't have to look exactly like the person. It's an interpretation. And it forces people who, especially people who might never look at art, i.e. probably people who are really into sport, might not spend as much time at galleries. I don't know. That's a very broad assumption, obviously. But a lot of people were looking at a sculpture, and I love that because then it can be the gateway drug. We look at more. So, of course, I went on a deep dive after that, and I did not realise that the artist who created this Ronaldo statue actually was asked to do a new one, given the challenge. And there's a video online about all of this, which I found, and it was actually quite sad. You know, he held a very stiff upper lip. His name is Emmanuel Santos, and the way he was treated was just so appalling. When they were filming, they took him to stand next to the sculpture and asked people, just random folk, whether or not they thought it was any good or the likeness was any good. And they basically just canned it, and he was just standing there. It was like a humiliation ritual, and this was filmed in 2017. And I think we've learnt from then that you can't do that. But because I could see that he felt like he needed to save his reputation and give this a go and rewrite that history, because quite often when you can't control something like that, you do anything to get it back in your control. So he said yes, but it just felt really cruel, and I wish I hadn't watched it. There was so much sadness in his eyes, and I think we have to remember this. When people do things, their intentions are invariably good, I would imagine. He said with such sadness in his eyes that more people saw it and cared about it than they ever would. They probably would have walked straight past it had this controversy not happened, and that he learnt to deal with criticism. And yes, it does make you thicker skinned, and yes, it means that you need to glean value out of people who do like it and what they have to say. And we do always listen to the criticism as human beings rather than the positive things. There can be 100 positive reviews, but you'll listen to one bad one. However, it was almost like he had to say that. And his life would have been infinitely better had this never happened. He may have become the most famous artist in the world for a time, and yet you could see how it crushed him. I don't know. Made me feel a bit sad. Anyway, that's a side quest I did for you, so you don't have to. Some other good news from the art world. This is not unlike the study that came out just a little while ago. I think I talked about it on The Moment, where music and attending concerts is better for you, is better for your mental health. And this is in a similar vein. Apparently art therapy can help with your mental health too, which is fabulous news. A study has been done with 129 doctors, nurses and other health professionals from London hospitals, and the study was performed by researchers from Queen Mary University of London, so it's legit, and they wanted to study the effects of group art therapy sessions, and they chose doctors, nurses and people who work in health, and especially professionals who work in immediate care and health, who see some of the worst things that you could possibly see. They chose them because these types of people are very good at solving problems, working in a crisis, being very rational, being very logical, and apparently as human beings, quite often, if you have those traits and tendencies, they often override processing feelings, that side of things, because otherwise you can't cope with the other. So they were chosen for a reason, and here are the results. And this is really interesting because it could be utilised in other businesses. You want to increase your profit? Pop a paintbrush in everybody's hands. Pop a smock on everybody. I love it. Researchers found that those who took part in the sessions reported much lower emotional exhaustion and depersonalisation and less stress, anxiety and depression. How's that, hey? And what they did was get half of the participants to take part in weekly group art therapy sessions while the other half were on a wait list. Those who attended the sessions, 6 sessions of art therapy, they were surveyed before and after, and those who didn't receive art therapy reported feeling around twice as burnt out as those who did. This is all according to BBC News. The trial also found that the benefits lasted at least 3 months after the therapy ended. Isn't that amazing? 3 months. That's cheaper than therapy. And another side benefit of art therapy they found was that using it helped people to communicate with colleagues in a very different way and to share feelings that might otherwise be difficult to express. It's interesting, isn't it? All the things we were encouraged to do as children. Think about it. All the things like being kind, being respectful, singing, dancing, going to concerts, finding joy in things, being present, painting. Here you go. Creating art. All those things we did as kids that we stop doing as adults are actually something we should be still doing. Why do we stop doing them as adults? Who made up that rule? Obviously the benefits are huge. As much as probably, I don't know, going to the gym. I mean, that's a more physical health thing, but in terms of your mental health, it's probably just as important to lean into those things we did as kids as it is to do many other things. So I don't know why we stopped. I think we're going to find a real change in culture over the next few years as we lean out of technology, as we lean out of systems that no longer serve us, i.e. capitalism and the rules that are very entrenched in our lifestyle, which means we don't have time for things like this. And it's not prioritised because it's not considered important. But further and further we get into the research, we realise that all of this stuff is essential to our well-being and happiness. And due to that, I'm sure our productivity increases and the workplace is a better place. So it just seems counterproductive that we get to a certain age and all of a sudden, no, you shouldn't be doing that. Let's lean back in the other way, hey? Let's go do some finger painting, shall we? I'm going to do that this afternoon. Oh my God, there was probably lead in the paint when we were kids. Didn't even think about that. All right, quick update for you. Do you remember Dolly Parton's sister Frida? Speaking of phenomenal women, remember when she did the Facebook post a couple of months back after Dolly had announced that she was taking some time out of her hectic schedule and wouldn't be able to perform some concerts because of some health issues and she needed some treatment that she hadn't had time to do, and so she was going out of action. But her sister Frida alarmed the world where out of nowhere she did a Facebook post where she said she'd been up all night praying for Dolly because Dolly wasn't in such a good way and that we should all pray for her. And look, the relationship between sisters is obviously a special thing, but I assumed from that, because this went global, media organisations, legitimate media organisations, took this post as a warning that Dolly was on her last legs. And Dolly had to then come out and do a video saying that she ain't dead yet, thank you, and that she was not in grave health. She was just taking some time out for some medical procedures and she was fine, she said. It was lovely, but I think we all thought Christmas was over at the Parton household between the Parton family members. I thought Sister Frida would be excommunicated for causing all that drama, but no, here's an update. Dolly didn't mind at all. Of course she didn't. What would Dolly do? Not care. Dolly just said to Frida, and this is Frida saying this to all of us, that she knew when she saw the post and what had happened that Frida didn't know things can take off so quickly on social media. Isn't that lovely? Oh, and this moment's kind of interesting too. It's almost as if today we're looking at the past and bringing it back to the present and reassessing, reevaluating things. That could be the theme today, reassess, reevaluate. Gwyneth Paltrow has said recently in a chat she was having with Amy Poehler on her Good Hang podcast, which is excellent, mind you. Go and download that one. Gwyneth Paltrow has said that she was actually dropped from a movie after releasing the statement when her and Chris Martin separated to say that they were consciously uncoupling rather than divorcing. Apparently, the producers didn't want the heat that was coming because the media was going for Gwyneth for this statement. I don't think they came at Chris so much, which now we look back on and go, why is that? Why is the woman responsible for this? Internalised misogyny. Anyway, she said on the podcast, so that was great because I was getting a divorce and then I got fired off. It was so awesome. I mean, I don't feel sorry for Gwyneth in terms of work prospects. She's got enough coin to sustain her for a little while, I'm sure. It's not much of a roller coaster at her house, unlike most of our households at this point. I think we know she was fine. However, let's look at that statement again. It said, under the title Conscious Uncoupling, we have always conducted our relationship privately, and we hope that as we consciously uncouple and co-parent, we will be able to continue in the same manner. Okay? By today's standards, this is pretty straightforward. I think lots of people decide to consciously uncouple for the sake of the kids, for the sake of just their mental health. However, it was widely mocked at the time, and I'm sure I even participated in it. I thought it was probably funny, as a really strange thing to say and a really overly performative thing to say, I think a lot of people thought at the time. However, I don't now. And Gwyneth actually said that she believed it was the mindfulness of her and Chris Martin's approach to divorce that was really the cause of the backlash. And this is interesting too. She said, say you had a really nasty divorce or your parents had a really nasty divorce. And then you hear this idea that like it doesn't have to be done this way. And she goes on to say, I think the implicit learning is like, oh, fuck. Like they're saying I did something wrong. So here you go. That was collective projection on society's part towards Gwyneth, because what they did made us feel bad about ourselves because many of us couldn't do it or didn't experience a separation that was respectful. Wow. I hadn't thought about it like that back then. She went on to say, that makes sense to me. Like, oh no, is the inference that I messed someone up? Like, that's not a nice thing to contemplate. So I understand why it was so personal for people. Well, if that isn't an incentive to look back at some things, perhaps in our own histories and responses that we've had to things, and perhaps reassess or reevaluate, because I feel like the world has changed so significantly and our understanding of where we need to head in the future is so vastly different from even 10 years ago. And our discussions of mental health, that I think you'll probably look back into some parts of your own life where you'll go, ooh, probably would handle that differently now. But it's good. That's growth. And growth is the point, isn't it? To leave this place better off than how we found it for the next generation? I would think so. Not sure this bit of news is taking the culture forward at all, but I'm sure there'll be lots of people that'll be very happy with this. Oasis, after their stunningly successful world tour where the brothers actually worked it out and made millions of people around the world very, very happy by touring together. They are now also rumoured to be writing the new James Bond theme for the new James Bond movie. Noel apparently responded to the rumours on UK radio just a couple of days ago and said it would be an absolute honour. That was a terrible accent. I shouldn't have done that. But then, of course, he had to have a little dig and said it should be done by Brits and not Yanks. Does anyone use the word Yanks anymore for Americans? If anyone's American listening, yeah, apologies. As it's awards season, it comes as no surprise that the next cab off the rank is the Screen Actors Guild Awards, which are now known as the Actor Awards, not to be confused with Australia's ACTA Awards, which are different. These are US and are voted by over 160,000 actors. Loads of people got fingers in many pies, having a say. These are fun, these awards. And the big numbers in terms of nominations goes to Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. 7 nominations, that's pretty good. Sinners got 5, that's pretty good too. Here's me saying that's pretty good. It's phenomenal for everybody involved. Lead actor Rose Byrne got a nomination for her work in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Good on you, Rose. Oh, and I really liked it. Someone doorstopped her on the red carpet and asked her how she copes with the stress and, you know, all the things in life and the difficulties and the exposure and of being famous and that kind of thing. And she just looked at the camera. And it was a really weird angle as well. It's like the woman who was interviewing was on the ground or something, like lying on the ground, because Rose Byrne was all hunched over and Rose Byrne just said, and I loved it, and obviously she was taking the piss, she just said, drugs and alcohol. Because those questions on the red carpet must be ridiculous when you're that famous. I mean, what's there to say? Good girl is what I say. Stir that pot. But also in that field, Emma Stone's in there for her role. Kate Hudson, interesting. She said she wanted to do some different roles that weren't just as the romantic lead in a rom-com, and she's gone and done it in Song Sung Blue, which is a movie about a Neil Diamond tribute act. And apparently her performance is excellent in this. It's been dubbed a boomer fantasy, this movie, and I can't wait to see it. But yes, she's branched out and got a nom. Also Jessie Buckley, who won at the Critics' Choice Awards just a couple of days ago for her role in Hamnet. In lead actor areas, Leonardo DiCaprio is up for his role in the Paul Thomas Anderson film Sinners, Michael B. Jordan. Ethan Hawke for Blue Moon, he's been on quite a few of the lists as well. The renaissance of Ethan Hawke, although he never really went away, did he? Jesse Plemons for Begonia and Timothée Chalamet again for Marty Supreme. And sadly, though, someone who's angling and has been angling to take steps into another realm in his acting career, and that is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's primarily known for action movies. He took a sidestep and played a more dramatic role in the movie The Smashing Machine. And sadly, he hasn't had any nods for that. Think of him like Mickey Rourke did with The Boxer. It's a difficult role showing problematic sides of life that quite often elevates the actor into different worlds, and different movie scripts might start getting sent and you also get involved in awards. But sadly, this hasn't panned out for The Rock, and here I am calling him The Rock. He probably just wants to be known as Dwayne Johnson now. It didn't take off, so no noms for him. There's also loads of TV nominations as well. They do television as well as their movies, and The Studio, again, has got 5 nominations. Adolescence, they're all up there. It's interesting. One category I thought I'd mention, the comedy ensemble, which includes Abbott Elementary, Hacks, Only Murders in the Building, and something I feel like should never be in that category, but every year it ends up in that category and I have no idea why. Can someone explain this, please? The Bear. The most stressful, anxiety-inducing television series I've ever watched. And I think anyone who's ever worked in hospitality would struggle to watch The Bear. It's not fun. Not fun at all. What's funny? What's funny about The Bear? Please stop this. It's not right. It's about cooking, which is stressful, in a restaurant, which is stressful, and about people with issues in a restaurant who are cooking, which is stressful. It's not funny. Oh, and finally, before I wind up, before this goes on until next week, this is not a moment today. This is many, many quick moments. Beyonce and Jay-Z's daughter, Blue Ivy, has just turned 14, and thank you, People magazine, which of course is an esteemed publication, high journalistic integrity at People Mag. Still going too. I was amazed. I can't believe it. They've done a report, a news story on the biggest accomplishments of Beyonce and Jay-Z's daughter thus far. Can you believe it? She's 14. So they listed them, and I only got through half the list with it, but before I was exhausted. Toured with Beyonce on her Renaissance tour and Cowboy Carter tour, has been in a film, performed the NFL Christmas Day halftime show, won a Grammy, won all these other things, has done this and that at 14. This is before 14. I mean, good on her. That's commitment, drive and dedication right there. And talent, I suspect, too. You wouldn't come out of those two folk without some talent, surely. But look, at 14, what had I achieved? I reckon I'd tried cigarettes. I reckon I'd pashed a boy with braces behind the bike sheds. And I reckon I had successfully learnt how to make a pair of shorts with an elasticized waist. Mind you, they were pretty simple. From a pattern that I cut out of Dolly magazine. So yeah, me and Blue Ivy Carter on the same trajectory, clearly. And just finally, this is good news for all of us because we didn't know how this was going to end up. Emma Stone has said she won't be playing Miss Piggy in the movie she's developing with Jennifer Lawrence and Cola Scola, which we're all looking forward to, of course. Her response to being asked if she would be playing Miss Piggy was, "Are you out of your mind? Miss Piggy is playing Miss Piggy. And Miss Piggy is one thing I think we don't have to reassess. She stays the same." I love that. And on that note, have a gorgeous day. Go and paint. Go and paint a picture. Go and draw something. Give it a go. Send me pics. I'm actually going to go and paint something. I bought a canvas and I'm going to paint something today. I always say that. Maybe you could give it a go too if you're at work. Do a doodle. Not that kind of doodle. Just do a doodle on your notepad. Okay? That's it. All right. Have a great weekend and I'll see you next week. Can't wait. Mwah. This is an MIK-made production recorded on Wurundjeri land. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land.